Joined by Chris Burke of ESPN and SEC Network, all over the place. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us here this morning. We'll start off things with something that'll probably surprise you that I want to start off with. The number one team in the country, Texas A&M. Just what do you think about this run that they've had? 6 straight series wins against ranked teams.
You know, it's been quite a run. I think the consistency and the explosiveness of that lineup has been really what stood out. You know, there's a star power there that's undeniable, but I think maybe the players that were not quite as shiny to start the year, you know, for instance, Burton last weekend just having a monster year, like it's, you know, Montgomery and Lavalette, those guys have continued to shine and be dominant players, but the pieces around them have been so consistent and productive. I think that's the part that makes the lineup so scary.
Isn't it interesting, too, because you look at that top 3 in the lineup and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. And when you get through that, whatever happens, there's, you know, Jackson Appel, there's Hayden Schott, there's Teddy Burton. Like, it just continues to be an onslaught.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, kind of my point is you figure, oh, well, Montgomery and Lavalette, they can't keep it going all year long, which they kind of have, and Kovac. But it's definitely, you know, Schott and Burton and Appel. Like, those are the guys that to start the year, you just weren't sure, you know, you're never quite sure about transfers. And when you see it on full display and then you see it over and over and over again against Southeastern Conference pitching, at that point you're like, oh, this team is not going anywhere.
You know, the cool thing for us here is, like, it feels like Schloss in this modern era of college athletics has built a program that can withstand, right, that can be a consistent top 5, top 10 type of program. Obviously, with transfers, things can change quickly, but it feels like he's building it in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, Schloss has a pretty good track record. He's won everywhere he's been. He won right away. It's pretty remarkable, really, the consistency with which he's won at a number of different stops. And, you know, we all know the recruiting base that Texas A&M has with just how incredible the facilities are, and then, of course, the location and their proximity to so many great prospects. But then, you know, Schloss has just done a great job in the portal. And every coach is on the front end of trying to figure out exactly what the best portal recipe is. And man, has he seemed to figure it out. And what's interesting is we know about sports is a copycat world. And so with the success he's had in the Ivy League, you know, people are going to be trying to come after those players maybe even harder than they have in the past, just with how well some of those kids have transitioned into the Southeastern Conference.
Well, you talk about how well he's done in the portal, and obviously the Ivy League guys have been a huge part of it, but no bigger name than the guy who came from Stanford and Braden Montgomery. Just talk about the season he has. We knew he had top 5 potential, and he certainly lived up to that.
Yeah, no question about him. Braden Montgomery is superstar talent, but you just didn't know exactly, you know, was there going to be enough contact? Was he, you know, there's obviously been some swing and miss history with him. There's always what's the right word? There's always the conflict of your draft year that even the most stable of situations, sometimes kids can not perform as well. But he's just, I mean, he hit the ground running, and there has been almost no dip in production, and he's solidified himself. I mean, I don't think there's any question he's going to be a top 5 pick. I don't see any way he drops below, you know, the top 10 in the draft. And, you know, if you were doing a combine scenario, I think Braden Montgomery would measure out at the very top of almost every team's draft board. But it is a crazy crowded top of the draft with guys like Bazana and Condon and Caglione and Weatherholt, Kurtz. I mean, last year we were freaking out with how talented the college crop of prospects are, but this year it's equally as exciting. And of course, Braden Montgomery is right up there with any of them.
Well, let's go a step further into this top five here. And Charlie Condon, we got to see him up close and personal. Just a cool story to watch his growth, his meteoric rise, Just your thoughts on what you're seeing from Charlie and Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, I think Georgia's a fantastic story with how they've consistently performed. They're hanging in there from a NCAA tournament standpoint, and Condon to me is right there with Wyatt Langford as far as the best hitters I've covered in college baseball. The ability to make the right swing decisions, the ability to get to his power so consistently with almost no what appears to be manufactured lift. Like he doesn't look like he's up there with the predetermination of trying to hit the ball in the ballpark. It's just the pass and the hand-eye coordination and the explosiveness with which he moves the bat. It just, when he's on time and accurate, the ball goes out of the ballpark. It's just that simple. But even more to the point, there's more than just the homers. There's the batting average, there's the doubles. He walks. So, it's a 2-year run that pretty hard to match. I mean, Gordon Beckham, longtime big leaguer and probably the greatest Georgia hitter ever. Condon beat his home run record a little over a year and a half. It's wild.
Chris, we've talked a lot about the A&M offense, but that pitching staff, they've had a couple duds out there, but what pitching staff hasn't? That's really been the part that I think has surprised not only Aggies everywhere, but the country.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I think to me, the pitching was the biggest question mark to start the year. And you look at the way Prager has, I think the most important thing a pitching staff can have is to know what they're going to get on game one. Doesn't always have to be Paul Skeens and Hagen Smith, but you have to have a feel that you're going to get a quality outing. And for the most part, he's been as consistent as any number one starter in the league. And, I think the bullpen, everybody knew Oshenbach and Cortez were going to be solid. And of course, they've had the emergence of Lampkin and there's been people that have stepped up in addition to Prager being so solid. But I think just in general, when you look at, an ERA of sub-4, I don't think anybody could have predicted that. And we're deep enough into the season now where it's like, there's no reason to believe that pitching staff's going to do anything but continue to get sharper and sharper down the stretch. To me, we're kind of past the point of wondering. You're now in the point of like, okay, you know what you're going to get from these guys. And from that standpoint, it's a formula that's hard to see them not finishing the season in Omaha.
Chris, let's close out with this. As a college baseball fan, how fun is this season to watch, especially in the SEC? You've got Arkansas, you've got A&M, you've got Kentucky, you've got Tennessee, all fighting with a chance to get that top spot.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting down the stretch, right? I think 2 weeks ago it kind of looked like Arkansas and Kentucky, and now A&M and Tennessee are right in the fight. Very interesting to see how this thing's going to play out. And we all know, the postseason's kind of a different race. Similar to basketball, who wins the regular season doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the team that goes the farthest in the NCAA tournament. But everybody wants to win the regular season title. It's a terrific honor, and to be able to have a ring and post a banner, so to speak, means a lot to these programs. So I think it's going to go down the last game. It's probably going to end up being a co-champ scenario. But honestly, it's interesting. I think if you were handicapping it, the two teams that are not in first place right now, Tennessee and A&M, probably have the best chance of going the farthest in the postseason. So we'll see if that continues to play itself out. But the top four in the league, really, really scary teams that, I'd say it'd be surprised if at least two, if not three, of those four are there in Omaha.
Chris, great stuff, man. Let's do it again, okay?
Okay, appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. Chris Burke there on the hotline.